Hey guys, I'm finally back. So for a while now, I've been accumulating lots of files, photos, and videos without a place to really store them. I've also been wanting to tinker around with some Docker applications like Jellyfin, Image, and even running a Minecraft server. In the past, I did run these on a single Optiplex with a single 4TB hard drive, although I thought I would finally commit and build myself a NAS. And so in this video, I'm going to take you through my experience of building this NAS and give you my recommendations and thoughts when building something like this. Going forward, I just want to say that I'm by no means an expert in this field, but I have done my own research, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. It works for me, but might not work for you. And to keep things more simple in this video short, I'm going to explain things on a higher level and not dive too deep. So, what actually is a NAS? A NAS is a networked attached storage, and it's like having your own personal cloud at home. It lets you store, access, and share all your files and photos and videos, usually from your local network. Although, a NAS isn't just used for storing files, but it can run software in order to manage your data in different ways. Some popular choices are TrueNAS and Unraid to do this. Personally, I will be using Unraid as it gives me the flexibility to mix different drive sizes. Speaking of drives, Unraid, TrueNAS, and other applications help you manage multiple drives in order to create essentially one big drive. For some context, my main use for this is to be able to run Docker applications such as Jellyfin and Image, and virtual machines and game servers such as Minecraft. If you're looking to build your own NAS but don't want to do too much setup, then I can recommend some from Synology or Ugreen. These are pre-built ones, therefore you don't have to do too much setup and they're already out of the box ready. All you have to do is put the hard drives in and you're set up. Although these can run you quite a bit before you even purchase the drives, and if you're going for high capacity drives will also cost you quite a bit. Another option is just to use a PC and then attach a bunch of hard drives together, which is what I will be doing since I'm able to build a faster system and have more flexibility. This can be cheaper in some cases but can also give you a better price for performance depending on what you need. Now for the specifications of my NAS. I went pretty overkill, but for what I have planned to do, it'll be nice to have a lot of headroom. I'll throw the specifications up on the screen, then explain why I chose each part. For the motherboard, I'm going to go with the B55i Aorus Pro AX from Gigabyte. I chose this because I wanted to go with the AM4 platform, but also wanted at least 4 SATA ports. I also wanted an ITX form factor motherboard for the case that I'll be using, which I'll explain more later. And looking around on Amazon and my local PC parts store, this was the only one available at kind of a reasonable price. Now for the processor, I'll be choosing the Ryzen 5 5600 GT, since it's an affordable processor but still has great specifications. The GT has a higher clock speed than the 5600G, but still maintains the 6 cores and 12 threads. It also has integrated graphics, which is a great addition if you don't need a GPU, although I did later add a 2060 for this build that I had laying around. For the RAM, I went with 64GB of DDR4 3200MHz from Corsair. This is probably overkill, but I don't want to have to upgrade in the future, and since this is an ITX motherboard, it only has 2 slots for RAM, so I figured I might as well shell out the extra couple dollars. For the power supply, I went with the 850W SFX 80 Plus Titanium from Corsair. I know I said I didn't want the system to have high wattage, so it doesn't make sense for me to have an 850W power supply in a 200-ish wattage system, but this is because, again, for the case that I'll be using, I needed an SFX power supply, and it seemed that nowadays no one really sells a power supply in SFX lower than 600 watts. The good thing though is that this power supply has an 80 Plus Titanium rating, which is the highest rating you can have on a power supply, essentially meaning that this is just really efficient. Now for the drives, I went with 2 manufacturer recertified Seagate Exos X18 14TB drives from Server Part Deals. These were quite expensive, but it's a high capacity enterprise drive, so you get what you pay for. In the future, I have plans to add 2 or more 18TB or 20TB drives. I also recommend doing a short and long smart test on these drives to ensure that they are in healthy condition when ordering used or even new drives. Now for the part that actually inspired me to choose all these parts and make this NAS, the case. I own a Bamboo P1P 3D printer and thought I might as well get some use out of it. The case is 3D printed with over 80 hours of continuous printing time. Cases that can fit 4 or more hard drives are quite expensive, and this alternative, I'm able to print more drive modules to add to my NAS. It also has a small form factor, so it doesn't take up huge amounts of space like a regular case would. The links for this case will be below, although I did purchase the premium model as it had more features and I wanted to also support the creator. The model is pretty easy to put together and the instructions are great. I printed this in primarily black PETG from Elgu, except for the drive caddies which I printed in white PETG to have some sort of contrast. And this is the final product. Overall, I'm pretty happy on how this turned out, and I plan to make more videos on this little machine here in the future. Now, let's get into how much this costed me. Note that these prices are listed in Canadian dollars. So for the computer parts, which is the CPU, motherboard, fan, RAM, and power supply, it costed me around $955, although you could definitely use lower specifications and find secondhand parts for much cheaper. The drives costed me $605, including shipping, duties, and taxes. To print the case, it took around 1.8 kilograms of filament, so about 2 1-kilogram rolls, which costed $45. There are a bunch of miscellaneous items such as power switch, SATA cables, and some screws, and print files, which were about $90. So total, for everything, it ends up being around $1,700. Again, as I mentioned, I do have some more videos planned around this setup, so look out for those videos. I also plan to make a post on my blog about this build, which will go much more in depth than this video has gone. Links for everything will be in the blog post, and if you have any questions, I'm glad to answer them in the comments or shoot me a DM on any of my social medias, which you can find below. Thanks for watching, fellas.